I think in Singapore, I was there for about 8.5 years. And it was lovely because we would do Chinese songs, we would do Tamil songs as well, we would do Malaysian songs, primarily because Singapore by itself is also a multiracial country. And it was a lot of fun. So I think, I guess I should thank God and my parents for having been in a different country to get a kind of a different perspective.
I think it's a very interesting time where barriers are being broken, boundaries are being, crossed. In the musical world, I think there's so much more exchange, collaborations happening between musicians of different genres, different cultural backgrounds.
Here, doing something new is not usually an aim in itself, but it's part of a large tradition, and it's just kind of organically adapted in this whole tradition of music.
What happens when Eastern music meets Western music? Something new is born. Alive, fragile, kicking, struggling, crying, and laughing. This newborn is called fusion.
Artists Unlimited began more as an idea, as a quest to create something new where nothing existed. For me personally, I had been in the music scene for a long time through school, college and professional recordings. And I knew that there was a huge amount of talent in Delhi that existed, but somehow none of that mass of talent was coming together. And we thought that if there are so many individuals who are talented, what would happen if there was one place where all those creative energies could be, could converge? Right in the beginning, we were very clear. 3 major goals that we wanted to pursue. One, of course, was that AU should be set up as a platform for musicians from different musical backgrounds, and the endeavor always is to work with the goal of cooperation and not competition.
AU has since expanded itself with over 200 active musicians, dancers and actors. Annette's band makes strong and innovative use of fusion, a musical technique that describes the coming together of otherwise culturally separate sounds and styles.
And we do everything from Western classical to pop, hip-hop, soul, R&B, jazz, rap, funk, rock, no metal yet, but we're open to it. We have this piece called Tillana. It's an adaptation of Swati Tirunal, and it's a Carnatic Indian song. Carnatic music is basically more South Indian, and it was a composition that we were working on within Artists Unlimited, and we recorded the piece in 2005 with just very Indian instruments, a mridangam, a sarangi and a tabla, and of course a tanpura. Sometime, as we were mixing the song and getting into mastering and all that, we were listening to it, and one of the Indian instrumentalists, Indian musicians came in and said, something's missing. It's been sung pretty perfectly, we have a mridangam and everything is fine, but try a bass guitar. And we took like a double take and we're like, are you kidding? A bass guitar on an Indian classical Carnatic piece? That's unheard of, even very traditional Indian classical musicians who've heard it are kind of like they like it.
Popular musical trends are short-lived. Some believe that fusion will also meet its natural death in this way, while others see it as a milestone leading to the creation of new genres. To explore this, we decided to turn away from pop to classical music. What impact, if any, could fusion have on this style?
I was born and brought up in Holland, in a small village right next to Amsterdam, the capital of Holland, with the view on the Dutch flat fields with the windmills and the cows grazing there. So, yeah, a wonderful time. How do you become a musician? Why do you go to university as a cellist? I think this is one of the professions you don't choose yourself, it chooses you. The first time I heard Indian music was in the university. It was so alien and so beautiful to me. And I could feel this tremendous spiritual depth in it. There were so many layers. I couldn't understand it on a rational level, but I responded to it from my heart immediately.
Though originally a professional Dutch cellist with roots in Western classical, Saskia became heavily involved with Indian music after her move to India, eventually designing a new type of cello better suited to this style. Today her musical repertoire spans across both Eastern and Western genres.
One of the dearest and special encounters I had in Maihar, where we played on Baba Alauddin Khan's festival, which is played in his memory. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, Shubhendra and I played there Jugalbandi. After that, an old man, really dressed in a lungi and a shirt, very, very simple person, he came to me. And he just kind of looked at me. He kept looking. And I knew he wanted to say something, but he was afraid that I wouldn't understand him. So then he gave me this smile and told me in Hindi, which was translated to me later, who says that Saraswati is Indian.
Who says Saraswati is Indian? After her compelling performance, Saskia was asked by the Dutch Concertgebouw to compose an Indian string quartet.
String quartet is a very typical Western ensemble form. 1 violin, 2 violins, 1 viola and a cello. And that's it. So that concept I'm going to bring into Indian music. I, as a Westerner and a cellist, can call myself an Indian musician. If you can learn this, if you can play by these rules, so to speak, musically, you're in. I think that's very open-minded for such a strong tradition.
Music goes beyond the realm of a mere idea play. It dapples with depth of feeling, spontaneity of expression, and rests on values of hard work. Fusion can either be an enriching experience or a cacophony. It depends.
Indian classical music and Western classical music, if one goes back in history, the development of the two really went along parallel lines.
As a world-renowned performer and composer, Shubhendra Rao is a brilliant light in the tradition of the sitar. Having studied as a protege of the great Pandit Ravi Shankar, Shubhendra has gone on to perform at some of the most prestigious venues around the world.
similar to the Indian music being a temple music, a form of worship, from the Vedas, the scriptures, the chantings. Western music had the Gregorian chants, which was also always sung in the church as a form of prayer. From being just a devotional music, classical music, both in India and the West, started being patronized by mostly the kings. So whether it was a great emperor commissioning either Mozart or Beethoven to compose, in India we similarly had Akbar. We had many of these great kings who were the main patrons of both the art and the artist.
Despite these historical similarities, many important differences also exist.
In Indian music, the strength lies in the improvisation, whereas in Western music, it's more composing.
Western classical music is like a big conceptual painting. You have this color here, this here, this here, and it's a unity on first sight. Indian music is like a miniature. Each detail you have to take in, and it's as important as the whole picture.
In all of this discussion, training comes to the fore. India has a unique style of training its students, a technique called the Guru Shishya Parampara.
Indeed, the Guru Shishya Parampara is a very unique feature of our culture, where the Shishya or the disciple lives with the Guru for an extended period of time, anything between 8 to 10 to 15 years, living in the same house, same environment, breathing music, not just for 1 or 2 hours or 4 hours, but literally 24 hours. Because when the Guru is there, the bonding that is shared between the Guru and the Shishya is something very, very special. A Guru is much more than just a mere teacher. And when one lives in that atmosphere, not only is the disciple learning the grammar of music, but also how to lead the life of a musician.
To live decades with a guru and to learn directly the intricacies of music. How important is this experience in the making of a musician? Is training important?
There is a certain freedom of thought that comes to people who have not been trained. They may not know all the techniques, they may not be doing it in the traditionally right way, but there is something that I think instinctively as a musician, if you're blessed with that talent, there is something that you have which, because it's raw and it's untrained, it could lead to something extremely interesting and could go in a completely different direction. Because if you come to think of it, where did music originate from? It came from somebody's ideas, like the things that we now call traditional and technique. It all came from somewhere, if you go back in the ages, it came from someone who thought of it. So I don't think it would be fair to say that it's necessary or imperative or critical, to have that training.
I attribute everything that I am to my Guru, because much as talent was there, it required his input.
85-90% of the singers and the really good core singers that we have are untrained. They've just learned things by listening to other musicians and by spending time on their own, perfecting their own techniques, and most of them are self-taught. But I would say that a lot of them have more diverse and more interesting ideas than, say, someone who's been trained and kind of also realized that a lot of people who've been trained get into a box and that's all that they do.
Disciplined way of learning doesn't mean that you're bound, but actually it's releasing you. It's giving you that freedom to be able to express yourself.
When a musician is grounded in one style, he experiments much more intimately with other musics. He evolves to a limitless world of fusion, creating new boundaries, new structures, and new styles.
गीत धुनी के तक दी